Hey guys, Chris here. You join me here in my Audi E-Tron GT. I'm so in love with this car. It's such a special and unique and beautiful thing, but it's also very expensive and it falls outside of the budgets for most EV buyers in today's market. I totally understand that and acknowledge that, and I know there has been a lot of content on this car lately. That's why in today's video, I want to make a video that's more appealing to most EV buyers out there. That's why we're going to be ranking the 8 best family electric SUVs on the market today. And these are cars I have driven that I can talk about, I have experience with. So I may be, excluding some of the cars out there that I haven't driven, but that's because I only want to make a list with the EVs I have been driving. So guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Chris. I have this channel dedicated to EV testing. So please drop a like on the video down below. And also, before I forget it, I'm actually giving away a Zaptec Go home charger worth 700 euros to a lucky subscriber once we hit that 30k mark. So if you want to be entered into the giveaway, you have to click that subscribe button down below. Okay guys, so before we start the ranking, remember this is only my opinion and I may value something different than you. Doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, doesn't mean you are right or wrong, it just means we value things differently. So let's start with, in the 8th place, we have the Mercedes-Benz EQA. So what I do like about this small EV is that it has a premium interior, it has a good infotainment system, and it has good seat comfort, and it also has good ride comfort. And the last thing I like about this car is its compact exterior dimensions. It's not the biggest car on the exterior, meaning that it's easy to drive in cities and in traffic. But that brings us to the negatives, to the things I don't like, and that is it has the smallest cabin and trunk in its class and on this list. And it can also get very, very pricey, and it has, mediocre range and not the fastest charging. Then in 7th place, we have the Volkswagen ID.4. So what I like about this EV is that it is one of the best looking EVs out there. I really do like the look of it, especially in certain trims with certain wheels. It looks very, very nice. I do like the ride comfort, very comfortable, and I also do like the quiet cabin, one of the quietest EVs in its class and on the market. It has a large and practical cabin, lots of storage, lots of space, lots of places to put stuff. It also has a large trunk, one of the biggest trunks in this class. And also, the last thing that I find positive about this car is that it is the cheapest of the bunch. And once you start speccing it up, well, it can become much, much cheaper than the most expensive EVs in this list. What I don't like though is the cheap and boring interior. This interior is full of hard touch plastics. Yeah, it really isn't up to par with the Volkswagen products of the past 5, 10, 20 years. It's just subpar Volkswagen, full of hard touch plastics, and it's not a nice place to spend time in my opinion. And also, it has a terrible infotainment system, one of the worst and laggiest, and the layout isn't intuitive, it's not logical, you have to do a lot of button presses just to do simple tasks. And then you have the HVAC controls, which are touch capacitive, everything. There isn't a single hard button in this cabin, except for the window switches and the gear selector. It's pretty bad in my opinion, and the HVAC controls not only being touch capacitive, but they are also not backlit. So at night, well, you can't adjust the HVAC without turning on, well, the overhead map light or flashing your phone at it. It's pretty bad. And also you have other bad ergonomics like the buttons on the steering wheel, which are also touch capacitive. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of neither the interior of or the ergonomics or infotainment system of the ID.4. Then we have in 6th place, this may surprise a lot of people, the Hyundai Ioniq 5. And remember guys, this is just my personal list. If you bought a Hyundai Ioniq 5 and you love that car to death, it's the best car you have ever owned, well, kudos to you. I mean, I applaud you that you don't find or see the negatives that I do. That's totally perfect for you. For me though, it is a bit different, and if you like the car, well, that is really cool for you. I'm not saying that you're wrong, or yeah. So what I do like is that it has cool and unique styling. I really do love the way it looks, and it does get a lot of attention. It has a premium interior, I mean one of the nicest interiors on this list. It also has the best ride comfort in class. It's sophisticated, it's comfortable, it's soft and compliant. Yeah, really good ride quality. And it also has a very quiet cabin. I've taken this car on several road trips and driven a few thousand kilometers. It's a very quiet cabin to ride in. It also has the fastest charging speed in class by far. It does 10 to 80% in around 20 minutes in the tests I have done. But people out there have even gotten faster charging times, like down to 18 minutes. So yeah, compared to everything else on this list, it charges like a beast. It also has a practical and large cabin. You have a lot of space, a lot of storage. It has a big back seat. So yeah, a very practical car. It also has a large trunk, among the largest in this class. But then we have the negatives, which is why I don't put this car higher up on the list. And first off, it has a subpar infotainment system, not the most logical laid out. The navigation system isn't the best. Graphics are not very good. Also, screen resolution and refresh rate is not up to, well, the best in my opinion in this class of vehicle. And it also doesn't have a route planner to show you, the charging destinations you should choose and how much you should charge. Yeah, that really isn't good enough in 2021. So not the best infotainment system, really brings it down on this list. It also has a awkward driving position. This may be the deal breaker for me. There isn't enough reach in the steering wheel. I find myself stretching over. Other cars can bring the steering wheel closer to the driver. So yeah, not the most comfortable for me and my body type. And then we have the seats, which aren't the most comfortable either. I just find that I get back pains. The lumbar support is like somebody poking you in the back. And again, remember guys, I do long road trips, so you may not even notice this. If you use the car back and forth to work, like driving an hour every day, it may never be an issue. But for me, yeah, I didn't find them comfortable. And then lastly, what I don't like is that it has disappointing real-world range for being a brand new EV on a dedicated platform. And this is according to testing I have done. Other EVs on this test that have been bashed about poor range have done better than the Ioniq 5. Then we have number 5 on the list, and this is to all the people telling me that I'm such an Audi fanboy, you only like Audi because of Audi. Well, number 5 on the list is the Audi Q4 e-tron. So what I do like about this car is that it is the best looking of the bunch. Yeah, I think it's the best looking EV of these. It also has a large cabin. It has good seats. It has good ride comfort. It has a great infotainment system with the, Audi virtual cockpit and also touch MMI. It's a real solid infotainment system that is easy to use and good graphics, good refresh rate. Yeah, just the quality of the infotainment system is really, really high. It has top-notch switchgear. I mean, Audi switchgear is one of the best in the business. And also great ergonomics. So you have physical buttons for things like your climate control. You have nice clicky touch buttons on the steering wheel. Everything is just logically laid out. And you have, the buttons you need to do whatever you have to do while driving an EV. And then it has a large trunk, among the biggest in the class. But what I don't like about this car, well, some of the parts of the interior are not up to Audi standard. It has some parts of the interior, like hard touch plastics, high in the cabin, and other fit and finish issues that just isn't what you would expect in an Audi, and that's why it really, brings this car so far down on the list. If it would have had a nicer interior, it would be higher up on the list. And also, the car I drove had more road noise than the Skoda Enyaq and Volkswagen ID.4. It may just be that it was on Bridgestone tires. I'll have to test one. I actually have one in a few weeks, hopefully. So I'll have to do that testing. But from what I could test so far, my experience is not as quiet as other Volkswagen product groups in this list. So yeah, a bit disappointing. And it can also get very expensive once you start piling on options. Yeah, by far the most expensive car on the list once you start, optioning it out. Then we have in fourth place the Skoda Enyaq. And yes, in my opinion, it beats the Audi Q4 e-tron. So that's to all of you telling me I'm an Audi fanboy. What I do like, it has an upscale interior. It has good ride comfort. It has a very quiet cabin, comfortable seats, and also a large cabin. It's like the Q4. But it also has the best size trunk in class, the largest trunk by far. And it also has a very good infotainment system. So where the ID.4 has a terrible infotainment system, this fixes a lot of it. Physical buttons on the steering wheel, shortcut buttons in the infotainment system, and just a better laid out infotainment system overall that's easier to use. But what I don't like is the minivan-like styling. I'm not a huge fan of the NX exterior styling. I do think it does look like a minivan, but again, people may not mind that at all. And also, it's very bland to drive. I mean, it's boring. It feels like an appliance, but again, as a family vehicle, you may not mind. And also, it can get very pricey for a Skoda. You get a lot of car for your money, but for some people, you know, paying almost 60,000 euros for an EV with a Skoda badge may be a stretch. Then we have number 3 on the list, and this is to everybody saying that I hate Tesla. I absolutely don't hate Tesla, because third on this list we have the Tesla Model Y, a car that I do like a lot. So what I do like is that it has nice interior materials. I mean, nothing feels cheap in that cabin. It's not the best in this class, but it's certainly up amongst there with the best. It also has a large cabin, very practical. I do like, you know, the dual wireless chargers in the front cabin, and it has a lot of storage. It has a good trunk, and also the front size is the best in class. So you do have a lot of cargo carrying capacity. It has sporty driving dynamics, and it also has a great infotainment system, one of the best here in this list. And it's also the best looking Tesla since the Model S, in my opinion. It's much better looking than the Model X, and also looks better than the Model 3 in my opinion. And I really do like the exterior styling of the Tesla Model Y. And then lastly, the supercharger network. This is always a positive with a Tesla, and is going to be on this list. But then we have the things I don't like. Compared to the best on this list, it does have subpar ride quality. It just isn't a match for the best on this list. So if you're looking for, you know, the most comfortable family SUV, well, this isn't your car. It also has subpar cabin noise. Again, not up there with the best on this list. And doesn't have the best ergonomics. So a lot of the functions are done through the, you know, infotainment system, but that takes away from, well, having physical buttons and shortcuts to things. In my opinion, you know, the steering wheel controls also are a bit lacking. If there were a few more buttons, it would be easier to use. And also the seats lacking, you know, any breathability. They aren't perforated. They are in this, you know, faux leather material. They can get sweaty after a few hours on the road. I experienced that. I started getting back sweats after a few hours because they don't breathe at all. So if you drive a lot of long distance, that may be an issue for you. Then we are down to the 2 best electric SUVs on the market. And I was back and forth between these two a lot. And maybe if it was me buying and spending my own money, maybe I would swap these two. But since this is a list of recommendations, I'm going to keep the list as it is. So in number 2, we have the Volvo XC40. What I like about the XC40 is that it has a proper premium interior. It's just a very good interior. It just feels very well put together and solid with good materials. It has a sense of solidity that none of the other EVs on this list has, and a sense of solidity and a tank-like feeling that normally is only associated with German cars. And even the German cars in this list don't feel as solid as the XC40. I do like the ride comfort. It's not the best, but it is very, very good. But it also has very good driving dynamics. I do like the driving dynamics. It's actually fun to drive. And it has the best seats in the class and one of the best seats in the business. I mean, the seats in the XC40 are superb. They are amazing. It also has the best infotainment system, in my opinion, even better than Tesla, because you have the digital gauge cluster in front of the driver, and then you have a separate infotainment system screen, and it is all Google infotainment system, the best voice command out there, one of the best route planners for navigation. It's so easy and intuitive to use. I have no issues with the infotainment system whatsoever. And then I love the exterior styling. It is a very close second place behind the Q4 e-tron, in my opinion. I just love the XC40's design since it came out, and you know, it's like 4 years old now and still looks sharp and modern and new. And also, if you get the P8, it's the fastest of the bunch at the budget under 60,000 euros. It's the 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.9 seconds and feels much faster than anything else here on the list. It's even faster than the Tesla Model Y long range. And then it has compact exterior dimensions, so it's quite big on the inside. We're going to get to that. But it's very compact and much shorter than most of the EVs on this list, making it a pleasure to drive in the city and for parking and just around traffic. So then we have what I don't like. So it has a smaller cabin and trunk than most of the competitors on this list, though it's not as small as the exterior dimensions would suggest actually, but it's not amongst the biggest, so I have to mention that. But it does work perfectly fine for most families in my opinion. And it also has more road noise than the best in class. So it's not up there with the very best, but it is above average. So it's not bad at all. And then lastly, it does not have the best real world range. But again, it's not the worst either. Then number one on this list, and this is a car I've been praising since I first test drove it and reviewed it back in like March or April, and that is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. It's still my favorite, and again, if it was my money, maybe I would have gone for the XC40, but it's just like every other day, XC40 Mustang Mach-E. So what I do like about it, it has a luxury car quiet cabin. I mean, this is the cabin that is the closest to my big Audi E-Tron in quietness, and I've driven those cars back to back so many times. It really is a sensory deprivation tank in much more quiet than anything else here on the list. It is also the almost the best riding car of the cars on this list until I test drove the Ioniq 5, but this is a very close second place. Seat comfort is impeccable, and it also has very good driving dynamics. It's not only amongst the most comfortable, it's actually the most fun to drive on this whole list. It's such a hoot to drive on a twisty road. Yeah, it is a real cool and fun thing to throw around. And then we have the interior build quality. So in my opinion, this is as good built as the XC40, but it doesn't have the best switchgear. That's why it's not, the very best, but it is an impressive cabin at this price point. I like the exterior styling. It's not the prettiest. I would rank it behind the XC40, but I still find it very, very good looking. If you couple with the B&O sound system, it is the best sound system in this class and almost as good as the Bang & Olufsen I had in my big Audi E-Tron. So very, very impressive. And then lastly, it has a large battery, by far the biggest battery, net capacity 88 kilowatt hours if you get the long range. So it has naturally the best range of any EV out there. I've driven this car to the Arctic Circle and back, racing Björn in a Tesla Model 3 and also Powell in a Taycan 4S, and the range is super impressive. But then we have the things that I don't like, and it has limited ride height. So funny enough, it doesn't have as much ride height as the other EVs on this list. So if you want something with more ride height, this may not be the car for you. And it also has limited peak charging speed. So it peaks at 150 kilowatts, but only for a few minutes. So it's actually one of the slowest charging cars here because it has such a large battery and not the best charging speed. But again, that is, combated by its immense range. And also the trunk is kind of smallish at only 401 liters, though you have a trunk at 80 liters. So for a lot of people, that may also be a deal breaker. For me, it is big enough. You have the front and the trunk, almost 500 liters combined. Yeah, I don't need more at least. And also the infotainment system is not the best. I think the screen is still overly too big. I think they made it 15.5 inches just to be half an inch bigger than the 15-inch screen in the Model Y, just to have the stats on paper. And also the graphics aren't the best, but it's actually quite easy to use. So I'm not complaining, and also it has been very reliable after I drove cars that were actually not pre-production. So guys, that was my top 8 list, the way I ranked them. Please tell me your list down below. What is your 1 to 8? And throw a little comment behind why you think the best one is the best one and number 1 on your list. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always guys, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.